Hi everyone, my name is Vinay Kumar Sharma and I am your social science teacher. I welcome all the old and the new students in the class. Dear students, in today's lecture we are going to cover the first chapter of history, that is the medieval India. So let's start. After learning this chapter, you people will be able to give the answer the questions like what is history, meaning of the word medieval in history, division of medieval period, different names of India, contribution of medieval India, and the sources of medieval Indian history. So let's start with our first topic, that is what is history. So history means knowledge that is gained from the study of the past is called history. Now dear students, this subject is important to understand about the human development in different fields, like in the field of agriculture, in the field of architecture, and in the field of culture. Let's try to understand this with the help of a very simple example. In the ancient times, early humans were living in caves and huts, but now human beings used to live in multi-story scrappers and modern pakka houses. By this we can compare the growth of human development in architecture. So you can take the example of agriculture also. When the early humans were there living in the caves or in the forest, at that time he was knowing very less about the agriculture, but nowadays human beings are using the modern machinery. Similarly, they are using the very better quality the seeds, and as compared to the ancient time, nowadays the agriculture production is very much. So we can compare the growth of agriculture, we can compare the growth of architecture and other fields with the help of history. Now let's move towards our next topic. Dear students, as you know that the history is a very lengthy subject and it is difficult to study the past, which ranges from the start of life to till date. Therefore, historians divide this subject into three periods, and these three periods are the ancient period, then the medieval history, and then the modern history. In class 6th you covered about the ancient history, and this year we are going to study about the medieval history. Let's begin. Next we have the meaning of the word medieval in history. Do you know the meaning of the word middle? Middle means something between. Similarly, what is the meaning of the word medieval in history? It means the period which lies between the ancient period of history and the modern period of history. Indian medieval period starts from the 8th century to the 18th century. It is the time period of approximately 1000 years, about which we will study in this class. So for the convenience of the study of this time period, historians have further divided the medieval period into two subparts. These parts are the early medieval period, which is from 8th to the 13th century, and the second division they have done, that is the late medieval period, which is from the 13th to 18th century, during which time many foreign invaders attacked on India, like Turks, Mughals and Afghans. Now let's move forward. Different names of India. As you know that our country is having different names: India, Bharatvarsh, Similarly, the Hindustan. In the same way, in the ancient time, our country was also known by the different names. Like in the ancient time, our country was known as Jambudvipa and Bharatavarsha. The name Bharatavarsha is also mentioned in Rig Veda. Here, the word Bharatvarsha means that by a country which was ruled by a tribe Bharata. Similarly, in the ancient period, India was also known as the Sapt Sindhu. Here, Sapt Sindhu means land of the people who lived along the river Sindhu. Sindhu is a Hindi name of the river Indus. You have studied about the Indus Valley civilization in the class 6th. So its name is in Hindi is Sindhu. Now let's move forward. Dear students, as you know that the pronunciation and the accent of the languages changes from region to region. Now when these changes occur, due to which many changes come in the words also. Now let's try to understand that how the name of our country which is India came into existence. As you know that in the ancient time our country was known as Sapt Sindhu was there, and when the Persian people came to India, they pronounced the word Sindhu as a Hindu in their own language, which is known as the Persian language. Afterwards, when the French people came, in their French language, they pronounced the word Sindhu as a Indi. And finally, when the English came, they pronounced the word Indi as India. And finally, this name we pronounce for our country. Next. Now, the different meaning of the word Hindustan for different persons. Now, whenever I speak the word Hindustan, then I mean to this word is a country. But in the ancient time, the meaning of the word Hindustan was not this. It was different for the different people. Like in the 13th century, Minhaj or Siraj, a chronicle, described the word Hindustan as an area that lies between the river Ganga and Yamuna. For him, this was the area which was under the control of Delhi Sultans. Similarly, Babur, the founder of the Mughal Empire, went a step ahead to include the geography, culture and natural vegetation of subcontinent to explain the word Hindustan. So for different people at that time, the meaning of the word Hindustan was different. Let's move forward. Then contribution of the medieval India in the human development. As you know that each time period is having its own contribution in the human development. Now let's see what is the contribution of the medieval period in the human development. First, see, the later medieval period saw the spread of Muslim dynasties. This resulted in the cultural exchange between the North and the South India. Means at that time the Muslim dynasties had become very much powerful, and they also started occupying the area of South India. When they went over there, they exchanged their ideas with each other, due to which there was an exchange of culture with each other. Similarly, second point you can see, The Muslim dynasties ruled over India for centuries and provided the political stability in the country. Before it, there was not a political stability. The rulers were changing very frequently. But when the Muslims came, at that time, the Muslim ruled over the India for centuries, due to which what happened, there was a political stability in the country, and due to this what happened, due to this trade and commerce developed very much, and also during that time many new towns came into existence like Dhaka, Murshidabad, etc. Now next is, during the medieval India, Muslim religion and ideas of bhakti spreaded in India. Now let's move towards next topic, sources of medieval Indian history. So dear students, there are the different sources available of the medieval Indian history, and we have divided all these sources into two parts, archaeological sources and the literary sources. Now what is the meaning of archaeological sources? Archaeological sources means the sources available to us in the physical form, like the coins, monuments, and something written on the cave walls. All these come under the archaeological sources. So we have a lot of archaeological sources available to us related to the medieval period of history. Some of them are there like monuments, inscriptions, and coins. So let's study about these in detail. First we will talk about monuments. Monuments means the buildings which were made in the memory of any person or any old building. So at that time a lot of monuments were made. Some example of them are like Taj Mahal and Red Fort. The second archaeological sources available related to the medieval period are the inscriptions. So inscriptions are the writings which are engraved on any hard surface. So at that time a lot of inscriptions were there which were engraved on the walls of temples, mosques, and the pillars for the different purposes. Like some inscriptions we can see on the wall of Red Fort, some inscriptions we can see on the wall of Taj Mahal, some inscriptions we can also see on the wall of Fatehpur Sikri. So when we read those inscriptions, we come to know about a particular ruler, we come to know about the people of that time. Similarly, at that time different coins were also issued, and on the coins sometimes the name of the king was written, sometimes they also used to write the year, and by reading on the name or seeing the picture of the king, we can identify or we can know about the ruler of that time period. Now let's move towards the literary sources of history. Dear students, the literary sources of the medieval period which are available to us related to the medieval period are travelogues, autobiographies, and biographies. So let's start. First we have the travelogues. Travelogues are the books which were written by the travelers who visited at that time in India. So at that time many travelers were there who visited India, and they wrote about the Indian people, about the Indian kings, like Rihala. This is a book written by the traveler who came from the Morocco to India, and the name of this book is Rihala. Similarly, at that time, Al-Bruni also came to India and he has written a book, Kitab al-Hind, and in which he has described about the culture of India. Now, next literary sources, which is autobiographies. Now, what is the meaning of the word autobiographies? Autobiographies means the books written by any person about himself. So at that time different people wrote different autobiographies, like Babarnama. Babarnama is a book written by the first Mughal emperor Babur, in which he described about the flora and fauna of India. Similarly, at that time Jahangir, the Mughal emperor, wrote a book Tujhki-e-Jahangiri, which describes about the culture of India at that time. Now, next literary source is the biographies. Biographies means a book written by any person about any other person. So at that time different biographies were also written, like Prithviraj Raso. Prithviraj Raso is a book which tells us about the bravery of the Rajput king Prithviraj Ch-1. Similarly, there is another biography is there, Humayun Nama. It was written by Gulbadan Begum, and it describes us about the Humayun king. Now, whatever we have studied, let's recapitulate that. So in today's lecture, dear students, we studied that knowledge that is gained from the study of past is called history. Then we studied historians divide history in three parts: ancient, medieval and modern. Then we studied the period which lies between the ancient and the modern period of history is called medieval period. Then we studied India was known by the different names in different times, like Jambudvipa, Sapta Sindhu, Hindustan, India, etc. Then we studied that the contribution of the medieval India in human development are cultural exchange, development of trade and spread of Islam and Bhakti ideas in India. And in the last we studied that some sources of the medieval India are monuments, inscriptions, coins, travelogues, biographies and autobiographies. So this is all about in the today's chapter. Let's do the quick revision whatever we have studied. You have to state whether the statement is true or false. So first question, most of the historians divide history in three parts. Is this statement true or false? This statement is true statement. Most of the historians of the world divide the history in three parts: ancient, medieval and modern. Now second question, in India medieval period starts from 8th century. Yes, this is true. In India the medieval period starts from the 8th century and it goes till 18th century. Third question, the name Bharatvarsha is also mentioned in Rig Veda. Yes, this statement is also true. The name Bharatvarsha is also mentioned in the oldest book, that is Rig Veda. Next question, Taj Mahal, Qutub Minar and Fatehpur Sikri are the example of the literary sources of history. Well, dear students, this statement is false statement because these are not the literary sources of history, they are the archaeological sources of history. So the word literary is wrong here. Next, Babur wrote his autobiography called Babarnama. So this statement is to statement. So this is all about in today's lecture. Thank you very much. Stay protected, stay healthy in your homes. God bless you all.